Hey guys, welcome to Troy Time. Hey, check it out. Today we're doing something awesome. We are doing microgreens. I love microgreens. We've been doing microgreens for a long while, right? We're doing it with no medium, unique ways, awesome stuff. Check the channel, right? But today I'm going to show you a super hack, right? What that's going to do is it's going to make common errors impossible. That means you'll be able to churn out just awesome batches of microgreen time after time after time. Okay, also, we're going to up your efficiency and show you a way that's going to take less touch time when you grow them, and we're going to make them grow stronger, faster, and better, all with just a simple hack and a tip. So stay tuned to this video. It's really, it's good stuff, man. I like it. It's working great. So I wanted to pass it on to you. It's coming up next. Here we go. Okay, guys, so before I get into the hack and the tip, let me just go through conceptually what can go wrong when you're growing microgreens. And there's three main things, okay? Basically, it's the density that you plant, how much light it gets, and the input of water. Those are the three factors that really can change things and make things go bad, okay? So we'll start from the least severe to the most severe, okay? The first one is the density of planting, okay? Now, I call that sort of, it is a big deal, but you can change immediately, especially with my method where we're using no medium. You can actually physically see where all the seeds are. Once you have the knowledge of what the density, correct density looks like, then it's super easy right at the point. You only plant your seeds once when you're doing microgreens. And if you put too many seeds, you pull some out. If you don't have enough, you put more on. And you can see exactly where they're at and how the density is when you're using no medium, okay? So that one's not really, it's kind of a no-brainer. Once you know what the right medium is and what it looks like, you can just duplicate that time and time again and make it repeatable. So you might make a mistake the very first time by putting too many, and then you know the next time, put a few less. And once you know what it looks like on the plate, you can do it over and over again, okay? So it's kind of a minor one, not really a big deal as far as the density. It's a big deal, but it's very easy to solve after the very first time that you get it wrong, okay? So that's density. All right, in the same fashion, lighting, right? Lighting is similar too. So if you had a grow and it didn't grow real well and you could tell that it didn't get enough light, maybe you were 2 feet away from the window, then you would slide that plate 1 foot from the window, and that would be your new growing area. And then once you have success, you can just repeatedly grow your microgreens right there. And so wherever you find your good lighting, it's easy just to replicate that time and time again. So if you were 2 feet away, you could make it 1 feet away. If that still wasn't enough, maybe you're on an east-facing window, you could move it to a south-facing window where there was more sun. If that still wasn't enough, then what you could do is you could move it from a south-facing window and put it somewhere inside with a simple house light. Any light will do, okay? You don't need a grow light or anything like that. Just any indoor light will do. Be careful about incandescent lights getting too close is the only thing because of the heat factor. But those aren't the hack. There's nothing there other than just understanding how to grow microgreens. You can solve the density very easily, and you can solve the light, any discrepancies with the light very easily as well. And once you get it solved, you can just repeatedly grow with success without those two things being a problem. All right, the one area that is of major concern and a major deal is the input of water, okay? And that can go in either direction. There's a very narrow window, right? You need to keep the roots mostly in the water, but you need to keep the seeds and the plants dry, right? So then that's a very small window, right? There's a window about that big, right? So if the water goes too far down below the roots, then the plant will wilt and die, right? You need to keep the water level above the roots. But if the water level goes above the seeds, that's even worse because what will happen is they'll get wet and they'll get nasty. Like your pea seeds will get all mushy. That's when you start to get problems with mold, and man, they can stink. And it'll stink up it's a strong smell, right? So basically you got to keep that water level at a certain level, and it's a small window to deal with, right? So can't be too low, can't be too high. And that can be hard to do. And the fact that you're doing it several times over one grow means there's lots of opportunities to mess up, right? And you might not even mess up. You might just bump the tray. And if you bump the tray like this here, a wave will come and it'll slosh over the seeds, and then the seeds are going to be wet. And there's a possibility, again, of those deteriorating, getting moldy. You might just be moving the tray and put it down too hard, and then again, you've got a wave that develops or whatever. You might be filling up the tray, and you can tell there's some surface here, but it's a little warped, right? So I might be filling up the tray over here, and I'm filling it, and I'm watching for my water surface to break right at this little mesh place, and it might be perfect right on the surface area of this, but this is more recessed right here. I don't know if you can tell, there's a little warble to it, a little bend. And so the seeds over here will be fine out of the water, but these will be submerged. And so even if you just get a little bit of mold right here, you're still going to ditch this whole plate, okay? So water input's a major deal that you've got to get right. And it can be complicated. And normally you're doing it several times during one grow session. So there's lots of opportunities for that particular input to be the problem in growing microgreens. So that's the first one we want to solve. Okay, so let's talk about a super simple hack on how we do that. Okay, guys, so this is what I want you to do, okay? And it's going to make it impossible to overwater and impossible to underwater, okay? So follow with me. So I want you to leave no seeds here. So you see how there's boxes? There's what, 6 boxes going across? On the very outer half of the edge boxes, don't plant this strip and don't plant this strip, okay? Leave those without seeds, okay? Another good cue is right where it starts to bend, like right here where it starts to bend right here, from there down. So right when you get your rounded corner, right where it starts to round, basically it's halfway through this box and halfway through that box. Leave those with no seeds, okay? And here's why. Because what we're gonna do is we're gonna water our microgreens. This video is not about how to do basic microgreens. I got tons of videos on it. This is intermediate or just a great tip, right? So, and hack. So what we're gonna do now to prevent underwatering and overwatering is super simple. Are you ready? Watch. Bam. Okay? This is awesome. I know it's simple. I know you're thinking like, what the hell? But this is amazing. It's going to do so much for you. Okay, let's talk about it next. Okay, guys, so this is how I do my microgreens now, okay? So what I do is I stack them up on top like that there so that they're actually physically on top of the green tray. All right, and the reason is great because now it's impossible to overwater, okay? Because look, there's a little recess here, and this is gonna act like a bleed off, right? Or a drain hole. So if I start to get my nutrients too high, they physically can't get to the bottom of the tray because water will start coming out right here. This is a release valve, if you will, okay? And so now it's impossible, even if I move this around or I set it down, when a wave comes, it's gonna drain out through here. It's not gonna bounce around inside like it would if I had it like this. Once both the sides are contained in here, waves just kind of do this, back and forth, and they splash around and they get everything wet. There's a possibility for the containing of the sides to keep the water higher than where your seed level is, okay? But as soon as you turn this thing sideways, like this here, you've eliminated that possibility. It's now impossible to overwater these. Does that make sense? Super, super great thing. Also now, it's impossible to underwater, or real dang close to impossible, right? Because even just a casual walk by, and you can see the surface is dry, and you'd be like, oh, I need to water those more, right? Also, you can gauge by the side of the wall, so you can tell where the fluid level is, right? You can gauge right there, right? And also, it's almost like having a sight gauge because once the roots are down, you can actually see if the water is actually touching the roots because you have an actual real-time visual cue to it, okay? It's not like this way where you put the water in and you kind of gauge and kind of guess, and then you kind of put the tray down and you say, oh, that might be enough water. Maybe my roots are touching, but you don't really know. But with this way, now you know because you can physically see. You can look right down in there and you can say, oh, my roots are touching the water. If I didn't put enough in, then I would just fill my water up higher until it touches my roots. Okay, so it's dang near impossible to underwater, and it's absolutely impossible to overwater. So that just solved your major water problems right there, okay? But that's not all the benefits. There's more. Okay, so when the white mesh is slid down into this other green container, man, there's only about like that much space, right, for water, for when you fill water. So you're filling water every day, right? You've got to bottom feed these things. Once you start bottom feeding them, you're bottom feeding them every day, right? But look what happens. Once I move this up and I put it on top, you've basically increased that bottom watering space by about 4. So now there's about that much space, okay? So now you've increased your reservoir, the volume of your bottom reservoir by about 4 times the amount, which means now you only have to bottom fill 1/4 of the time. And I'm going to tell you, for most of your microgreens, that just means once. So you grow your microgreens like normal when they're sprouting, and then when it's time for bottom fill, you just bottom fill them one time, and you can just come back when it's time to harvest. Okay, so it makes it awesome for some of your microgreens that grow longer growth spans that get up into 12 days, 14 days. Yeah, maybe you need another refresher here, but you'll still have to bottom fill 1/4 the time that you would normally do it. So it makes it super efficient. Okay. And then also for today, the last tip I'm going to tell you that's going to be an awesome tip is we are going to use nutrients when we're doing our microgreens, okay? That's going to make them grow stronger, better, faster, longer, just like the Daft Punk song, right? But it really will. It's really going to make them grow faster, and that's even going to have a synergetic effect because now even some of those long-growing microgreens are going to need less fills because they're growing faster. So maybe it was a 12-day grow, but now with the nutrients, using the actual nutrients, it might only be an 8 or a 9-day grow, and you might only have to fill the bottom one time still, even with some of those longer growing things, right? So generally with my microgreens, I grow bean sprouts, I grow pea shoots, I grow radishes, and I grow broccoli. Those are my favorite, my fundamental 4, okay? Basically the deal is, once it comes time to bottom water them, we put them up on top like this here, and that's going to solve tons of problems for you. If you really were concerned about it, you could slide this in and put a pool noodle here to block, but most of your stuff that gets done growing, and like if it's before 20 days, you don't have to worry about any kind of greening or anything like that when you're using nutrients instead of water. But if you were concerned with it, let's say you're going to grow your microgreens 25 days, 30 days, then you can pull this tray just a little closer and stick a little pool noodle right here. You'll still have access when you look up. You just pull the pool noodle up and you can look underneath and see roots and that kind of thing. So those 2 little tips or hacks combined are awesome. The first one is stacking it on top like this here once you're bottom watering, and the second one is using nutrients. Do those 2 things and you will see your microgreen game explode. You'll see how awesome it is, and there'll be like almost no possibility for error. And it's just going to be consistent and just great microgreens growing all the time. Okay, so if you haven't grown a lot of microgreens, you might not understand how powerful this is, but I'll tell you, if you've ever walked in on your microgreens and you've got that smell and you see mold, man, this is a game changer. This just prevents that entirely from happening. And if you've ever forgot to water your microgreens over a course of a day or 2, and then you come back and then they're just trashed, then this is an awesome thing. So remember, the 3 parts. It's going to prevent overwatering and underwatering. It's going to give you a larger reservoir on the bottom, and using nutrients will help it grow faster, okay? So those 3 little things are just awesome, and it's really just, I wanted to share this. I hope you guys understand how good it is. This is just a really good tip. I hope that comes through. So hope you have a great day. I hope you appreciate these tips like this. Let me know in the comments. Don't forget to like and subscribe. This is Troy Time. I'm out.